My name is Carmela D'Angelo. I was born in Middle Village, New York. It's a little town in Queens. I grew up in a house with my father's family. My father came from Palo del Colle, Bari, when he was 4 years old. His father was in the ice business, and he helped his father as a teenager in the ice business. I lived in the same house with his mother, his father, his brother, and his brother's family. Food is very important in an Italian family. Family comes first, food comes next. We love to feed people. We love to see people enjoy it. We love to have conversations around the table. We can sit down at a table and last for hours just talking and eating, and that is very important to me. My grandmother, Carmela, who lived downstairs, always cooking. She made pasta almost every day, and she only bought spaghetti when she was like 80 years old. Never bought from a store before. And my grandfather always made his own wine. In the canteen, there was a room where they kept the wine, and they called it the canteen. My grandmother didn't go out of the house. She was always home and always cooking. And my mother too, but we lived upstairs. My grandmother they lived downstairs, and my aunt and uncle lived downstairs. But we were all in the same house. She always had someone home in the house, which was a good feeling. I never realized it till later, that you came home and there was never an empty house. I lived there until I moved where I live now. I lived there for 20 years. Even though I was born in that house, I lived there after I got married too. I moved out and then moved back. My husband and I lived in Queens. That's how I met him. Across from my house was a park, and we used to meet in the park. We got married in Middle Village, lived there in his mother and father's house for the beginning, and then we moved into the house that my parents had after my mother passed away. Then my father moved to Florida. And I stood there till I moved upstate. Well, I started to cook as soon as I got married, because my husband was in the Army, and then when he would come home, I would cook. But it wasn't big meals or anything. I was just learning. And then because I liked to cook, I kept trying different things, and it just kept going on, and I like to cook a lot of things now. I watch people cook, and I'm very interested in cooking. But I never really asked them how to do things. I just watched what they did. And my mother cooked every day. There was no, you had to cook every day years ago. And my grandmother cooked every day. And then when I got married, I lived in the same house with my mother-in-law, and she was Sicilian, and she cooked. So I learned that kind of cooking too by watching her. And I do a lot of that because my husband loves that food. You know, you have to please your husband, and you cook like what they like. Ask questions, because time goes on and then people pass away and you're sorry you didn't ask them things, and I am sorry today. Even though I lived in the same house with them, there's a lot of things I don't know about my father's side of the family, my grandfather's side of the family. And I just went to Italy in 2011 and found a cousin of my father's I didn't think even existed anymore. And it made me wonder, why didn't I ask my father more questions, too, about his family? My daughters are married, and they have families. My son, he just moved near me, like 5 seconds away from me, upstate. He's not married yet, but he's engaged. And we all hope. I have 3 children, 5 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild. Now, being a nonna means someone that I looked up to. My mother's mother lived in Brooklyn, but she had a country home on Long Island. And my 2 brothers and I would go stay with her for the whole summer when we were off from school. And she was always cooking. And I never even thought about it, but food was always ready. She always had everything ready. My clothes were always clean, and I just took it for granted. But she was a strong woman. She lost her husband when my mother just got married. So she took care of 7 children herself. And she was wonderful. And I learned a lot from her. She made our life there a very happy life. She was always there for us, anytime. We wanted something, she was there. And that's what a nonna means to me. I do cook with my grandchildren, especially if I go to my daughter's house. And it's mostly like a holiday or something. And my granddaughters will cook with me. And when I go to my other daughter's house, my grandsons always cook with us, especially my oldest grandson, John. He loves to cook, and there's always something going on in their kitchen. I love that. I'm learning from them, too, because they do things that I never would even do. And I'm learning how they do it. I would never eat a salad made with raw Brussels sprouts. And he made a salad with it, and it was delicious that I requested it again. I don't eat everything. I'm a very particular eater. I'll cook it and make it for everyone, but I don't eat everything. But that's okay. I love to cook Italian, so I do cook other things like steak and things like that because my husband loves meat. But I cook a lot of Italian food. My family likes eggplant, so I cook a lot of eggplant different ways. I love pastas. I love to cook pasta all different ways. I love it with vegetables mostly, and they love pizza. I make a lot of pizza. That my husband built me a pizza oven outside. They know when they come by me, they're going to have these things. I like to see my family enjoying themselves. I love to see when they eat and they're all enjoying it. And when we have something going on in my house, I try to make everything that they would like. And just look at them, and they're happy, and I love that. About 20 years ago, I was in Florida for the holidays, because my father lived in Florida, and I decided to write down recipes from my family and ones that I liked for my children. So I hand-wrote 3 books for each one of them, because I don't want you to lose what your family had. That's what I miss, that I didn't watch everything that my grandmother cooked, and then now I've thought about it and I try to figure it out myself how it was done. But I think they all look at the cookbook. Even my grandson John looks at my cookbook, which I like. That's things that I want. I want them to remember a lot of things that I had. I think that's very important. Family is very important.